Hello and welcome to the Digital Telco Summit by the Economic Times Telecom. Today we have with us Mr. Tareq Amin, who is the CTO of Rakuten, which is a new Japanese telecom operator and is already being termed as the disruptive telco in the world because of its approach to build the network with latest technologies. Tareq, as you might know, already worked with India's leading telecom operator Reliance Jio and helped build the world's largest all-IP greenfield network from geos to global face to becoming a truly global face of telecom disruption. Tareq has several feathers on his hats. So without delaying further, I would like to invite Tareq to take it over from me and begin with his presentation. Over to you, Tareq.
Thank you very much, Danish. Really glad to be here with you guys, describing to you the journey that Rakuten Mobile have been going through the last few years in building the world first cloud native network. But before I talk about the network, allow me to spend just a few minutes to give context to who is Rakuten. Some of the audience might or might not be aware about the scale and scope of the company itself as the parent company Rakuten. One of the key things that attracted me quite a bit about Rakuten is not necessarily the company is a telecommunication company. Rakuten is an internet innovation company that has a highly diversified portfolio, applications from e-commerce to banking to fintech, to credit card payments, touching almost every aspect of the daily life of Japanese consumers. The essence of the company revolves around membership. We believe that our customers are members, they're not mobile numbers. And we think that has huge value to this ecosystem. And of course, having such diversified portfolio of internet-facing companies meant something very clearly to me personally, that I have access to talent. Because one of the big things that most telcos today are contemplating with is how do you really attain, train, and bring the right talent on board to build the cloud architecture that is needed to run telecommunication workloads. In April 8th, we launched the world first fully virtualized network. It is truly a new generation network. And let me just elaborate a little bit about what we mean by this really fully virtualized, because it's a really big achievement. It is not an evolution, in my opinion, of technology. It is absolutely a revolution on the underlying technology architecture. If you don't mind, go to the next slide and I'll explain to you the main pillars of the network. So in early 2018, I joined Rakuten in June 2018. And one of the key ideas that I wanted to push forward is an architecture that is completely designed around open network. An open network that delivers on cost effectiveness, being vendor agnostic, and of course, being highly secured. To deliver on such merits of architecture, the areas of focus for us was to tackle the most complicated workload in telecommunication network, what is called radio access network. And I'm sure many of you have heard about the initiatives that are happening globally about OpenRAN, and I'm sure many of you starting to see the benefits and merits of such an architecture. Our approach has been focused on a complete decoupled architecture. So when we talk about OpenRAN, for us it's simple, whether you call it OpenRAN, vRAN, Cloud RAN, we have basic requirements. Number one, complete separation of hardware and software. That's extremely critical if you want to achieve cost efficiency. Move away from deployment of massive electronics at the site. Move these electronics at the data centers. The hardware itself move from proprietary ASICs to COTS appliances that Intel makes, hundreds of millions of CPUs a year for IT industry. Let's leverage what has happened in IT and drive that to telecommunication. The second pillar is also when you look at radio, the same principle that we did for radio, let us apply that also for the entire network apparatus. In fact, if you look at Rakuten Mobile Network, the totality of hardware that we have used is there's only 6 hardware types. When you think about that from a minimization of supply chain, minimization of complexity, the level of automation you could do and the predictability around operation and preventative maintenance, it adds tremendous advantage. We have the right approach of mix on mobile edge compute. From day zero, Rakuten Mobile have been envisioned with a substantial number of mobile edge data centers to host applications like our Cloud RAN platform, the software for vRAN, the software for CDN, the software for cloud gaming, and those were inherent in the architecture. And last but not least, and it's something that I think is extremely critical, is the automation that you apply into telco network. If I give you the analogy and you look at what is happening in the field of autonomous driving, and you see the innovation that is happening in autonomous driving, I wonder sometimes why we don't see the same innovation happening in telecommunication. Well, we talk about it quite a bit. We talk about it. It's not for lack of talking. But the fact of the matter is we still, from an execution point of view, we are so far away. My fundamental belief we're far away is because of the underlying architecture of telecommunication network is still nowhere close to where it needs to be, which is a cloud-based infrastructure, demand elastic, resilient, reliable, meet all these web scale architecture concept. For us, automation is ingrained in the DNA. And automation, we have one vision and one dream to focus on a level 4 autonomous network in the next 24 months. That's a big, audacious goal, but I think it's achievable, largely because of the telecommunication infrastructure that we have deployed in Japan. Can you go next, please? So since 2018, if you recap what have we done and what are the key accomplishments since 2018, we started by the heart of this architecture, which is about the cloud. The cloud is horizontal and it is not verticals of multiple clouds. It's a cloud that is absolutely demand elastic. It's a cloud that is meeting today's workload application and what tomorrow is going to bring as we move towards pure microservices, cloud native workloads. A completely open 4G and 5G OpenRAN platform. We deploy 100% of our infrastructure on a platform that, frankly speaking, in the early days, many people did not believe this could scale, this could work. But I really, really believe that we as human beings has fundamental capability to far exceed our limitation if we apply ourselves and if we believe on the disruption that needs to be brought for the benefit of business, benefit of consumer, benefit of society. And then automation and AI that was ingrained on the architecture of what we have done from day zero. We wanted to divorce the traditional organizational structure. We wanted to be far more nimble, far more agile, far more focused about delivering services at a level of agility that have never existed before. And we connected this entire network via dark fiber infrastructure for backbone that is not only meeting today's 4G network, but tomorrow's 5G. And last but not least, a massive innovation on how we deliver voice. I think we were one of the few companies that embraced the idea and the vision. Do not resist and fight that voice is an application. Like Viber, WhatsApp, Line, and many OTT applications, Rakuten own voice platform, which is called Link, is also an OTT application that combines communication, collaboration, commerce, and today 70% of our traffic in Rakuten mobile network for voice is going through our RCS Link application. That to me is also a very good accomplishment and driving the industry into the right direction towards adoption of voice as an app, data as a platform. So how does the network looks like? So I think, we've got, since 2018 in June till today, I got a lot of questions about, is this network reliable? Does it meet what is considered to be carrier grade? Does it deliver on the promises to the end consumer in terms of cost disruption and the benefit and the agility that we've discussed before? And I'm glad to tell everybody, absolutely yes. And absolutely yes, because the truth of the matter is cloud telecommunication infrastructure already existed in one form or the other with web scale companies such as Facebook, Google, and others. But we have not embraced the same ideas and vision yet on a fully telco cloud regulated industry as we are in. Today, our network in Rakuten Mobile carries twice as much traffic as traditional networks in Japan. This is very simple reason. You remove the shackles of the data limits, data throttling, data constraints, and you remove it to completely unlimited strategy. When we launched Rakuten Mobile, we thought, why not just have one plan? Go inside our digital front store. No need for you to shop plans. No need for you to worry about, am I needing 20 GB, 30 GB, 100 GB? give data unlimited and let people enjoy the freedom of that plan choices. And it is only one plan called Rakuten Unlimited. So of course, we've seen some significant uptake on volume, data volume per sub. And this has driven the entire Japanese society, no different, by the way, than what Jio have done in India when they came to the market with a disruptive technology, different disruptive business plan. You have seen what has happened in India in terms of consumption of data per sub per day and per month. Also, video performance is absolutely massive uptake. Massive uptake. Video is a trend, in my opinion, that does not have cultural boundaries. The same video performance that I have seen when Jio launched India also exists now in Rakuten's network. And I mentioned this earlier, RCS calls are contributing 70% of our traffic. And in terms of network stability, so I really believe that when you move to software, the capability of the network will only get better. Software will get better. The cloud underlying infrastructure could only get better. The objective that we had at Rakuten, build a software architecture to work around outages and service interruptions that could happen. If you truly have built a microservices architecture, you have removed and abstracted yourself from living in the old world in which high availability was defined by building another hardware type in another geographical location. For us, high availability is about microservices deployed across thousands of commodity IT infrastructure across our data centers. So we've seen better reliability, better elasticity, capacity planning has become things of the past. And this is the exciting thing. And I keep telling everybody, we are still scratching the surface of what is possible. So we're very, very happy about the network performance and what has been achieved in a very short time. Can you go next, please? Now, I could tell everybody, this is my opinion about the network, but how about others? How do they perceive Rakuten mobile network? Well, we had many companies came to do benchmarking and an assessment about the quality and experience in Japan. And I have not hired any of these companies. I invited them all to come in just to give me an independent view about the customer experience of this open network, OpenRAN, virtual RAN infrastructure. Does it scale? Does it work well in dense urban areas like Tokyo? And when you look at some of the initial reports that we looked at, my first observation that came to my mind, it really jumped to me, says this is not too bad for a 4-month-old network to be at this level when I compare our network versus other networks that have been in business for decades and longer. So when you look at 4G availability, voice experience, gaming experience, download experience, we are really happy with what the potential of this network could be in today's 4G and tomorrow's 5G network. And again, this is not a small footprint network that we're building. We aim to accelerate our build plan, which never really happened in Japan, to this acceleration, but I think the simplicity of the architecture are enabling us to achieve a much higher acceleration that was originally anticipated. Almost by 5 years, we will cover 70% of Japan population on the same cloud native architecture, OpenRAN platform, completely like Lego boxes, zero electronics, other than the remote radio head and antenna deployed at the site. Everything else is removed into edge data center. So build plan is coming really, really well in terms of coverage and footprint expansion that we're achieving. Can you go next, please? And then 5G, this is another really very exciting thing. So 4G, of course, we're very, very happy about the architecture that we have done on 4G. 4G was deployed as virtual machines of different workloads for packet core, OSS, BSS, IMS, radio. In 5G now, we advance and evolve into where the world wants to be eventually. This is where web scale companies at. Completely containerized architecture, completely microservices. We've announced some significant partnership with NEC in which us and NEC will share the IP, and we'll both have access to the source code to develop standalone 5G core, as well as combo, which is the integration of 4G and 5G under one common core platform. Can you go next? And last but not least, well, what happens next? So I think the last 2.5, 3 years have given us unbelievable advantages on understanding how to run a network, what are the mistakes that you could make in trying to build a network that looks like Rakuten? What are the skills that you require? And we thought, maybe we should think about a platform. What happens if telco capabilities are delivered in as simple as an app store? So this is where the Rakuten communication platform idea originated, an idea that allows us to converge into one telecommunication app store, both IT workloads as well as network workloads, making months and years of network deployments into days, if not even sooner, by tightly integrating the software, removing the complexities of integration. And this is what we are now focused on, trying to export some of the platform technologies that we have done in Japan and find the right partners globally. Specifically in India, you will hear some very, very big announcements that we will be doing about partnerships with Indian companies around RCP. How do we take this vision and really not just only capitalize it for Rakuten, but build it in a way that is completely open, completely collaborative, and completely un-vendor-like type of platform that will go to any operator that want to think about the world from different lenses. So that is the creation of RCP, and RCP, I think, to me, is a very fundamental, big departure from the traditional way of running, managing, engineering telecommunication network. Can you go next, please? This is another big thing that we really, really believe in. This concept of open source has been talked about quite a bit, but until you get the experience of participating in open source communities, you start feeling that you belong to a much larger group. Your discussion and collaboration is no longer about one vendor to one partner. You now have a larger global community that is working on the same vision, the same strategy. We wholeheartedly believe this, and we think this is the right approach, that networks need to be built on open source technologies. Networks need to build with collaboration in mind, co-innovation in mind, and drive these cloud native initiatives together as a community, as a group. And I'm glad to say that there is enough open source initiatives happening that have the right characteristics and the right architecture and the right mentality. And we as Rakuten want to embrace and support the dialogue and discussion and partnership with a lot of these open source communities. So I think with that, I conclude my slide, but I'll conclude it in a summary to say to you the following. Nothing big in life comes easy. Big initiatives to build a telecommunication network like Rakuten was not an easy. And it was not easy because we were greenfield, by the way. This was a choice. We had a choice. Maybe the easier choice, by the way, was to select a traditional vendor. But this was a choice to think about the world from a different lenses, to think about disruption that we want to bring to society, to believe in engineering organization and in people, and to build a foundation that is built for delivery of agile services, not really stuck in the old world of thinking that the only way to deliver voice is just a green button on a device that hasn't changed for 30 years. An SMS that last time it evolved was 1992. So I think this is where we welcome partnership, collaboration, and the initiatives that others could bring to help us drive this across the ecosystem. I thank you, Danish, very much and for giving us this opportunity to speak to your audience, and would welcome taking any questions that you might have.
How crucial a partner for you as Rakuten in terms of building your network, in terms of adopting all those new technologies that you have just mentioned? So what is the role role of new partners when you build a network like Rakuten did in Japan?
I will tell you, I cannot express to everybody how much I have valued and admired and enjoyed living in India, by the way. And I thought, honestly, when I lived in the United States, I was quite a bit innovative, but I quickly learned the minute I landed in India, I did not know anything. How do you build a network in which an average revenue per user is $1? It really opens your mind, and it makes you to think very differently about supply chain management. It makes you think very differently about the concept of human relationship partnership. I don't want to call it only business relationship partnership. So very, very straightforward. I never would have ever achieved anything in what we have done in Rakuten had we not had the right committed partners. In fact, I would share with you some inside story. I mentioned this a few times, but maybe not a lot of people understood it. My first task on my job in Rakuten Mobile was to cancel the old RFP. Then what I started to do is I started interviewing people, not based on the merits of technical compliance. I interviewed people based on the merits of their mentality and mindset as a partner. And I found, to my pleasant surprise, so many willing companies, some large ones in India, some large ones in Europe, some large ones in Taiwan, some large ones in Korea, some large ones in the United States. They were hungry to find someone maybe like Rakuten that would give them the opportunity to innovate and remove this abstraction to say, you're not allowed to innovate because this is carrier grade. If you innovate, you become less reliable, which I don't never believed. So I think partnership is a critical, crucial thing. I don't think you should be building everything on your own. You should find what you're really good at and invite a larger ecosystem to help you grow and bring a benefit, because at the end of the day, people have to make money as well. So the partners have to find a way to make money.
So you also talked about OpenRAN ecosystem, how Rakuten has been instrumental in building the whole community, participating in all the forums. There is a change happening in the entire world, wherein there is a debate now between traditional versus OpenRAN, adopting open source components and products. So with Rakuten adopting the technology, now there is a talk in various countries, including in India, where telcos are now saying that we want to adopt OpenRAN. Do you think that traditional telecom operators can be more committed towards OpenRAN technology?
I would tell you, I had unbelievable pleasant conversation with one of the largest telecom operator in India, and the topic of discussion was about exchanging notes and lessons learned about OpenRAN, and I was so surprised about their appetite to innovate and their appetite to change. Really made me feel extremely good about the future of the industry that we're in. If I look at it from India lenses specifically, I would argue, when 5 years ago, I always wondered why India did not have a telecommunication infrastructure vendor. I wondered that all the time because when you think about India and the capability of the skill sets that come from IT background, software background, I would say it's in an enormously unique position to capitalize on the shift that is happening across the world, to play not necessarily a follower role, but to take a proactive role and say, we have the technical skills, we have the acumen. We, of course, are very willing, by the way, as far as Rakuten, we have huge investments that we're doing in India. We have a very large offices in India. We continue to grow there. And we want to be part of this, discussion journey about how to help the industry in India into this transformation, maybe possibly export the technologies that we have done. So I really think this is no longer, in my opinion, about a hypothesis whether OpenRAN will work or not. The reality it is, anybody that sees what we see every day will understand that cloud technology has a merit, and it is a matter of time, not a matter of if. If you want to evolve into being more of a digital provider, which I think all of them wants to be, then you have to start embedding cloud into your DNA. And RAN cannot be the only black box that remains in the network, that for one reason or another, we say it cannot be done. So I'm optimistic. And I'm optimistic that traditional operators are starting to look at this very, very seriously. I think we have furnished an evidence that it's work. I'm not saying, by the way, that everything is perfect, far from it. But what I'm saying, because of the software layers that we have, I think our ability to make it perfect is much easier than a traditional architecture.
So the RCP platform that you have mentioned that Rakuten has developed, the app store kind of for telecom operators to build the network. Do you think that there is an opportunity in countries like India for you to give that kind of learning so that the existing telcos can benefit from Rakuten's learning, and obviously in return, Rakuten can also monetize the learnings that it has.
I'm telling you, I'm personally motivated quite a bit to make India for a lot of the engineering we do, because I found that we have aligned quite a bit. I'm talking, if you look at whether it is at the government level between Japan and India, whether it is at the personal level, myself with my counterparts in India, or even the company as a whole, I want to see the Rakuten communication platform to become alive, but with one condition: it cannot be thought of as a vendor. That would be my worst nightmare, is to go from being an innovation hub to all of a sudden you have to treat me as a vendor. So we are examining quite a bit of different business models now with a few large system integrators in India, to how they can take this platform, how they could make it even an open source platform framework architecture for the industry as a whole. Keep in mind, RCP is far more than just a cloud layer. RCP comes with orchestration, the MANO layer. It comes with what we call an EMS-less architecture that we have built with OBF, OSS, BSS. We have our portfolio company, as you know, its engineering team is in Bangalore, Altiostar. I think we have a great story in the making of collaboration between Rakuten and the right Indian partners that are really willing and wanting to embrace and build indigenous technology in India and create a win-win model for us as Rakuten and for future business partners in India.
We have a lot of Indian telcos also speaking at our summit, Digital Telco. And you have closely seen the networks that India has right now. What sort of advice you would want to give to them, not to the newest telco, but the legacy telcos as well, including the PSU, BSNL, which is currently in the phase of choosing their way forward in terms of building out the network. What are those learnings you would want to give to them?
I think the number one thing is my really humble advice is focus on organization before you even talk about technology. Before we talk about cloud, before we talk about any of the elegance of what maybe future technology could bring, why focus on organization? I think the new world, nobody will debate that the new world is a world that we live in which AI and software and data science and machine learning is becoming to be the prominent skills and technologies that are driving the disruptions and innovation that is happening across multi-industry and vertical. Spend time in examining how the structure and the organization, when you start to say, here's the dream structure I want to look like, don't be afraid to start evolving towards a structure that is built on software, a structure that understands cloud very well. The second thing is, I would say, the issue about afraid. There's no problem with taking risk. When you think about, again, I look at, let's say in the US, the Silicon Valley, and you look at the investments that come to all these startups. How many telecom startups exist today that get rewarded for the work that they have done? I would argue it's very little, because we as an industry really unfortunate that we don't reward startups the same way, let's say Silicon Valley rewards startups. I really advise a lot of people, don't be afraid about size. You might have a different perspective and a different view that you might find a company that have an amazing skill set. They might not be 100,000 people employee company, but maybe that's okay. That means you have to do a lot of the work. And the third thing, and to me was maybe the tenet for success, is I think it is okay to take a little bit more on your shoulder and drive integration work and system integration capability, where you drive the partner and ecosystems that you want to bring in, and you manage them to an end destination. So you have to take this into consideration. But I would, in conclusion, I would tell you, whether you are a brownfield or greenfield, the advantages of this telecommunication cloud architecture is not just because of OpenRAN. The advantage is going to come to you when you discover that this network has the ability to run like managed Wi-Fi. Just think about that. Managed Wi-Fi, you and I don't even think about it. You put a LAN cable and you forget about it. What happens if all these complex things in life change? You don't need managed services. You don't need complex organizational structure. The field work is easy because there's less electronics deployed. So I think it's just an embracement, and I believe that this is something you want to do. From the discussion I had with few of them, I think my belief is they really, really think that the time is right and the maturity is almost there for them to jump into such a technology.
You already discussed a lot of things which Rakuten is doing in India already. I was going through a lot of interviews given by you to foreign media. So somewhere you said that Rakuten is being called the system integrator in the telecommunication world right now
Yeah,
because the partners it brings to the table. So you already mentioned that you do not want to be called a vendor, but are
correct.
you happy with the term system integrator also?
I cannot understand why they are calling us system integrator, and it doesn't necessarily bother me. But I don't consider us to be the system integrator. I consider us to be a platform provider. Maybe
Right.
that's a better description of what we dream to be: a communication platform provider. The analogy of what AWS did for IT industry, we would love to do for telco industry. I think our approach, why we got called a system integrator, I love working with partners. So my approach has been not just to go and incubate technologies by ourselves and create a black box. So I invited so many partners, by the way, large partners like Nokia, I mean, also Mavenir, Altio Star, and any company that is willing to partner with us. I said, look, I'll host your application. You know, in a way, I just want to be the platform for your application. And it's a win for you and a win for us. So the last thing I'll tell you, that the reason why this system integration came about is also 2.5 years. I mean, we absolutely was tirelessly worked to pull all of this fragmented partner ecosystem together. And that by itself, a lot of people don't know how fragmented this ecosystem we live in. Actually, what you hear in publications and maybe sometimes media outlets never match the reality of what we saw on the ground. So when you start putting something together, you'll discover that the technical gaps are much bigger, that the only way to fix it is to get people to have this harmony and equilibrium. And so I found a way of how to make everybody financial model work. Maybe that's actually the key word. Financially, everybody made money. The partners were happy and content.
So RCP is something which is being talked about a lot. You also mentioned and shed light on it. Reliance Jio in India also is planning something, taking their technology to the world market. Do you think that you both will be competing with each other in the global market with your platforms and technology, or do you think there could be avenues where you both could be partnering together to sell to the world?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, I find so much similarities between the organization. By the way, in many different ways. I think they both have unbelievable charismatic chairmen of the companies, unbelievable, and their hunger and vision to what they want to do, not just locally and globally. They share similar beliefs, and in general, I would tell you, I always believe competition is a very, very healthy thing for everybody. And but I also believe collaboration is very much possible. The more that you recognize that there is impossible to be the know of everything, it's impossible for you to have a skill sets that cover end to end everything. The more I believe that there could be potentially a models in which collaboration is absolutely possible among operators. Obviously, Rakuten has no intention to be a mobile operator in Japan or a mobile operator somewhere else. We just absolutely enjoy being platform providers, as we have 71 other platforms that we already have,
Right.
and the communication connectivity is just one platform. So long story short, I mean, I have nothing but huge admiration to the technical capability of the team in Reliance Jio, and I hope one day that technology collaboration could be possible.
So in India, BSNL for the BSNL's network, Indian government is inviting a lot of companies to tell them about building the network. Tech Mahindra, for instance, is one company, along with other Indian companies like Sterlite, have proposed newer business models and ways to build the network. Do you think that you could also help, because Tech Mahindra is your partner and there are other partners as well, like Sterlite? So do you think that Rakuten could help these Indian companies propose a better network plan for India's national telco, which is BSNL?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you mentioned some really very, very important point. Both the companies you mentioned right now, we want to empower to become better, to be very honest with you. I think Tech Mahindra today is a much better organization because of the partnership they have done in Japan with us, my opinion. I have many close partners that we work with in the company, and and we are absolutely intending to do quite a bit of strategic initiatives with Tech Mahindra, and hopefully, optimistically, these strategic initiatives will translate into tactical actions that you would see in India, whether it is for BSNL or maybe other future things that they might do there. Because I also think that it's important to have indigenous technology companies embrace, adopt, enhance the stack that we have, so we could remove this issue to say, no, this is Japanese, this is Indian. There should be a better collaboration of how technologies are done. Sterlite also, when I met their leadership team and their CEO, I encouraged them. I said, look, when you guys think about what you do today and your capability, I think you also need to think about how you build infrastructure, meaning the hardware components today. Mostly we source from Taiwan, most of our hardware components. And I asked, what is lacking? What is lacking today? I mean, when you think about the component vendors, let's take Qualcomm as an example. Its hub is in India. They build all the silicon that you need, and majority of it is being incubated, build software, same as Intel, same as Cisco. You think about it, you guys have the entire ecosystem. Maybe you just need the enablement of how to bring all these ingredients together. So the first initiative that we've done to start infrastructure build out, we also awarded the Sterlite our Wi-Fi 6 build out, right? Which is from a hardware point of view. And we would love to find more Indian companies that are willing to embrace this. So you will see us extremely active, by the way, extremely active as ecosystem and industry enablement in India, because we think we need to see and honestly, look, the selfish reason is simple. I want the ecosystem of India to grow. If it grows, then I have another supply chain that I can go to, that we feel comfortable about its security, comfortable about its quality, and meets our technical requirements as well.
Sure. How has been the reception to your RCP globally? You must have taken the platform, the app store to the global telcos. How has been the response so far?
For me, I've met 70 plus mobile operators so far. So it has been quite a bit of discussion. And, it's really very fascinating, Danish. The discussion early on goes from, is this real? Because that's the first thing. And look at this statement, is this real? Because my belief, most of the inputs about reality, whether this is true or not true, mostly comes from the large vendors. The large vendors, I don't know, sometimes I feel they don't want to see such an initiative become alive, because it means it's a disruption to a traditional business model. So once we get over, is it real? The excitement really sets in. And the excitement becomes, how soon can I start trialing and validating? And how soon are you able to organizationally put a structure in place for international go-to-markets? And that's why I mentioned, you're going to see, I can't officially tell you in today's call, but I will make sure that you guys get exclusivity to this, where we will announce some very large initiatives with Indian players about taking RCP globally. And that's the missing gap today. What we need is just to address the structure, the organization, to be able to support global marketplace. We recognize that we need a lot of help, and that's why we're reaching out to establish large system integrators, especially in India, to be part of this journey.
Clean telco term that US has recently coined. So FCC Chairman Ajit Pai has spoken about it, and other government officials have also talked about it. And Rakuten is all about open ecosystem and open sources. Is security an issue which may come up, or open source ecosystem ensures that security is taken care of. So what is your view on that clean telco and security?
So before this term came about, well before clean telco came about, we were, I think, one of the only companies today that I know of that had complete transparency on every facet of our telecommunication infrastructure. And what I mean by that, we started by supply chain. I mean, let me give you an example. How many telecommunication companies you know would ask, where does the component of the remote radio head gets manufactured? Who's the supplier of these remote radio head? Where is the factory? I would like to audit your factory. I would like to see where this PCB gets assembled. Where is it made? So we took it, maybe, I don't want to call it an extreme, but it was very important for us to understand we needed to know where our hardware gets made. That was very important. We need to know who are the component vendors. And in fact, by the way, for our 5G components, we were adamant about who we want to be the component vendors in both our millimeter wave spectrum and our sub-6 spectrum. And the reason behind that, we felt that we have a much better chance at securing our open interfaces, securing both the hardware, understanding the vulnerability that might exist on hardware and software. We've adopted this concept that we call the zero trust apparatus into this equation. And I'm not saying that there is such a thing as called flawless security, but I believed maybe my mind was thinking in a very simple manner to say, if there is no black boxes in Rakuten network, and if every interface is owned by Rakuten, and if every certificate is owned by Rakuten, then the concept of identity and access control, perimeter security, maybe is slightly easier than the abstraction of what is considered to be, no, you cannot touch the remote radio head because that is mine, or the interface is locked. So a lot of work that still needs to be done on security, but I am confident that security in an open world has a much better success than being completely locked and you don't know anything. I mean, the first thing and the first job of a CTO is to have 100 visibility to everything, and not to trust because a vendor comes from country A, he's more secure than country B. Your job is to say whether it is A or B, it is unsecure. And I think that's the mentality that we have taken on security.
Do you think that the current geopolitical issue will further give a push to the open ecosystem in the telecommunication world?
I think it's really interesting. For sure, the geopolitical issue specifically between the United States and China is accelerating OpenRAN. But if you ask me, my adoption to OpenRAN is not because of risks of Huawei or ZTE equipment. I can't provide such expertise, but I would tell you, for me, OpenRAN was about a new way of operating model, because I cannot afford to spend $17 billion every year on 5G infrastructure. We wanted to divorce the complexity of building networks. So we've adopted it, not just necessarily only in geopolitical. Now, all the nice side impact, of course, but I think it's better security, better supply chain, but for sure, I think geopolitical issues that are happening today, I have no doubt they're going to accelerate the adoption of OpenRAN platforms. Sure. And maybe create also a much needed diversified supply chain in this industry.
Last question, update on Rakuten's 5G network in Japan. Like, what is the plan? And
it's amazing. This is 5G. We have finished the last pieces of the development part. So hardware, luckily, everything now is 100% completed. It's in deployment now. And we are in the last tweaks in software. The next 2 to 3 weeks, we will hopefully get through the last chunks of software that remains. But the 5G infrastructure in Rakuten may be something very important that you could help me communicate my message. Very different than 4G. A radio software that is completely 100% cloud native, deployed as containers in top of RCP, is a massive technology breakthrough, by the way. 4G was about VMs. 5G is a new adaptation of software for both the VDU and the VCU. And this has not been, again, it's a journey to do this, was not simple. And in COVID situation, I think you guys know very well, Altio Star was not able to go to their lab for almost 3 months. To manage through all these technical challenges and logistical issues, I'm pretty happy where we are, but the enhancements in software, I don't think it will have a stop date to improvements that you will see in our 5G network once we launch in early October.
I think, Tareq, for this session, I think let's conclude the discussion. I think you have given a very insightful presentation and diligently answered all my questions. So for that, I would like to thank you, and thank you for taking out time for this session. Thank you very much.
Danish, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.